Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. A lot of stuff is going to go down here tonight. We're going to step back in time a little bit, pay a little recognition to some people. A lot of stuff has happened in this building, whether it was the era that I know a little bit about, Boston Tea Party. I used to be the announcer at the Tea Party, so I can speak to the fact that we definitely threw down a little bit. So, so a lot of people got stuff to say. So I'm not going to take up too much time, but I want everyone to hang out, relax, and have a really good time tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to my man Steve. So let's have a nice round of welcome for Steve Nelson.
Of course, Charles is modest in terms of saying he, introduced a few shows. He was the face and voice of the Tea Party. Nobody got to go on stage before he gave me the intro. So, thank you. Nice to be in that company. I left my guitar home, but it's the way it is. I'd like to thank you, everybody, for coming. The Music Museum of New England has started a project you probably know called the Boston Music Trail, putting markers around different places in town that were of musical significance. We did one at the apartment that Aerosmith lived in Brighton about a year and a half ago. The city of Boston was nice enough to shut down ComAv, shut down the T, and let them play on the street. We didn't get quite that far. But thanks to Don for his hospitality, for making this space available to us. And I know a lot of people, some people here have traveled a long way to come here, both geographically and I think going back into time. So I'm just going to bring on some people here to talk about various aspects of what went on here. I mean, it's absolutely right, as you said, this building is probably, from a standpoint of clubs in Boston, the most historic place. I mean, it's a different building, but it's certainly the most historic location in Boston. There have been clubs here since early 1969. You're going to hear from Gerd Stern, who was the president of Intermedia Systems, who basically was responsible for the ARC. I got brought in, I forget by whom, somebody took me over to this garage on Lansdowne Street to say, we're going to build this great club here. And I walked in, and it's this really disgusting garage, taxi garage. There's oil all over the floor. And I kind of went, what? I mean, this really didn't seem very likely. 3 months later, these people, as I call them, the Archeans, they descended from space, completely converted this place, and it was never the same. And it's been really, except for the time when this building was under reconstruction, it's really been in continuous operation as a club pretty much for all that time, which is pretty remarkable. So I just want to introduce Harry Sandler, who is my co-conspirator with the Music Museum, and he's going to talk a little bit about our website and what we're doing there. That is the Music Museum right now, other than a few markers, which we're going to see one here. So Harry, your turn.
Thank you, Steve. When we started this project 8 years ago, we thought of it as a sort of a three-pronged attack, and I'm going to work it backwards. Really, we want to end up with an actual brick-and-mortar museum. I mean, Boston and New England has got a tremendous amount of music that has come out of here, and a lot of you have seen these shows going back over many years. The second part of that attack was to do these markers and do exhibits to actually pay homage to all of that. And the first part of our attack was to really put up a very comprehensive website. And so we've been working slowly over the last several years. And there's really, we couldn't put up this website without the people I'm about to thank. So I kind of want to start off with Wayne Ulecki, who is really a founder of our mission, gave us a donation. Wayne was the bass player in the Beacon Street Union, and he saw the vision years ago, and he was fantastic. without Carl Tortola and without Linda Lyman and Steve Haig, we wouldn't have a website. They have been our web team, and they have found us everything. Carl right here, Linda is floating around over there. We couldn't do it. I mean, it's growing all the time, and everybody's contributing. Ed Simkus, one of our writers, keeps on giving us bio after bio after bio, and Linda and Carl keep putting all this material up. Carter, you just did a wonderful job in giving us a whole slew of information on the BCN team, and I mean, that's all a part of everything. So, you know, without all of that, we couldn't be what we are without your contributions, without your help, without all of the information that you send us. We can't document everything. So thank you. Keep it coming at us. The more you give us, the more we're going to put up, and eventually it's going to ultimately show everything that has gone on in New England music. So thank you so much, Steve.
You know, Harry talked about the volunteers like Carl and Linda. This is all a volunteer effort. You know, what we like to think of as a, you know, labor of love, because we just all remember all this great music that went down and, you know, want to preserve it. However, besides volunteers, sometimes it does take a little money. And we were fortunate enough to get a grant from Ernie Bach Jr.'s Music Drives Us Foundation for the Music Trail Project. Ernie was going to be here, but he had to get a plane and couldn't quite sandwich this appearance in. However,
another plane? Ba-doom, boom.
However, Music Drives Us has a group of people known as ambassadors, and one of their ambassadors is somebody many of you know, Fred Bermonti, who is the founder and owner of Daddy's Junkie Music, which in its heyday was, you know, probably the greatest music retail operation in the United States, and got recognized as such. So Fred is going to say a few words on behalf of Music Drives Us.
Did you hear that? Greatest in the United States. I'll take it. Anyway, for decades, the name of Ernie Bach has been synonymous with cars, and then when Ernie took over the business, people around New England area got to see that Ernie was more than just cars, that Ernie Bach Jr. was, his soul was in music. Ernie is a guitar player, was a graduate of Berklee College of Music, and was on the board of directors of Berklee College for a number of years. So what Ernie did was he combined his passion for music with the business and ultimately formed this nonprofit called Music Drives Us. And Music Drives Us provides grants to organizations and individuals that have music programs. They've provided grants of over $1 million to well over 100 organizations around the area. And it is in large part because of the generosity of Ernie Bach that the Music Museum of New England has been able to put together these events, create these landmarks, and it is very appreciated that Ernie has put himself out there for us and made this continue. So wearing my other hat as a member of the board of directors of the Music Museum of New England, I want to give a sincere thank you to Ernie Bach Jr. And Music Drives Us for their continued support of helping to create these landmarks that will put us all in the position where we get to remember those individuals and those places that have given so much joy to so many around New England. So for all of us, thank you, Ernie.
Fred mentioned that he was on the board of MM1. There's a couple of other guys here besides Harry and myself who are also board members. Dave LaCamera and David Bieber. There he is. He's back there. So again, a hand for them. again, this is, people volunteer their time and effort to make this possible. Now, one of the objectives, frankly, now that I can kind of put him on the spot, of the museum is to work more closely with the city of Boston. I think the whole, many of us here have seen how the music business and the arts have blossomed here in Boston over the decades. If you're old enough and you remember, like when I do in that garage, there was a time that Boston wasn't too friendly to music and the arts. And now it's a mecca, and Boston has a new mayor after 5 terms of Mayor Menino and Mayor Walsh, and he has appointed Ken Brissett as his title as Director of Sports, Tourism, and Entertainment, which is a pretty big portfolio. I like to think of him, he doesn't know this, as the czar of fun. Because these are all the great things to do, and he's going to help move these forward. So, Ken, a few words?
Thank you. I'm going to go back to the mayor and tell him I have a new name.
Put on your card.
Put on my card, which I don't even have that yet. I'd like to thank you for having me here. On behalf of the mayor, we're really excited to be partnering with you folks here, as well as the arts community itself. When the mayor was running, when he was running for mayor, he knew and he had a vision of the arts in Boston. And by doing so, he created a cabinet level for the arts. And we are in the process right now. I know you all know Joyce Linehan, who has been working very hard. She sends her regards tonight, and Tom Johnston as well, who I work very closely with. They're in the process of right now interviewing for that position. In the meantime, I'm actually heading up the actual arts, tourism, and special events. Once we have that arts commissioner, I will be the director of tourism, sports, and entertainment. And that's a really exciting thing because that encompasses, all of those things encompasses economic impact and things that can come to the city. I've been talking with a lot of folks here, and just a history of me, I talk about the music. My grandfather, back in the day, used to have an 18-piece orchestra, and he used to play on the Telegram and Gazette up at the top in Worcester, because that's where I grew up. And my uncle used to be the band manager for Zonkaraz, which some of you might remember. Wow. So I come from a history of music. I can so appreciate what you're trying to do here, and anything the city can do to help move that along, I think that's fantastic. The stories that all of you can tell in this room, if you could all just write a book, it would be unbelievable. And I really mean that. The stories that you can all tell if you wrote a book. Well,
Oh, you wrote a book.
In there, done.
And the other thing that I think is important too is I look around the room. I think it's really important that as the group here, you start cultivating younger people to get involved. I think that's really important. You have worked so hard in your lives to bring it where you are right now, and to get these young people who probably don't even know what vinyl is. They have no idea what an 8-track tape, which I still have at my mother's house, or they have a 35 or whatever. But get those young kids involved, and we have so many great schools here with Berkeley, with BU, and get all those kids involved with this, and let's make this really work. Boston is an incredible city. We have such an incredible, powerful story to tell of the history of music, and I commend all of you for doing this today. So thank you for having me.
Okay, now, speaking of stories, now we get to now we've heard from our sponsors, so to speak. We're going to hear from some of the people who were here, who made it happen, who lived through it. And as I mentioned, the first club on this site was the Ark. And, believe it or not, we have with us Gerd Stern, who was the president of Intermedia Systems, which created the entire environment in the Ark. And it's remarkable, there's actually some other people, I believe, here from the Ark as well. So this is going way back in history, and I think Gerd's going to give us some insights into what went into creating this place and what it was all about.
Steve, you're going to have to shut me up because I've got too much to say, right? But it's lovely to be here. I don't believe this place. It's rococo. Like he said, oil on the floor, garage. We turned it into something arty, and sound. But it was a big headache, actually, because the money came very slowly from a lot of wonderful people, and Charlie Tebow was somebody who was pregnant with the idea, and there were 5 or 6 other people who came in, and here we have Michael Callahan, who I've worked with since the 60s and still work with. We have Michael Smith from who we worked with in Syosset, right? Is that true? And Walter Gundy, who certainly was very active in the Ark. What was the Ark about? I mean, hark, hark, the Ark, right? It's not the Ark, it's the block, but we called it the Ark. Noah had nothing to do with it, by the way. Anyway, we got it together, and we had 3 or 4 years before that put together the first big media discotheque in Long Island called The World. Why not call it The World? And it was on the cover of Life, so we were lucky. Andy Warhol had competed with us for it, and he lost, but he was very jealous when we hit the cover of Life, because he had that little place on St. Mark's. Anyway, the Ark was the realization of something. I mean, here it was right close to the ballpark, which seemed like a lucky location. Was it? Well, it still is, right? And it's working. I mean, I'm amazed. I haven't been here since it was the Ark, believe it or not. I never was at the Tea Party. Now, the idea of having a club with sound, I started out with a wire recorder 30, 40 years before that, a wire recorder. You guys maybe work with 1/4-inch tape. Well, wire was nothing like that. When wire got tangled, you really had a problem. But it recorded sound. And we wound up on Newberry Street with Intermedia Sound, the first 16-track studio in the world. And it was really that studio which was the birthplace of the Ark, because we recorded many of the groups that you know about. We had gold records. I mean, it was, and we also produced our multimedia shows out of that studio, which was a prodigious benefit. The reason we got that studio is kind of silly, because we took it out of bankruptcy. We had a very young at the time banker who turned out to be a big shot, so that we never knew him after that. But Tom Lee, Tom called us one day and he said, "This guy is going bankrupt with a sound studio on Newberry Street, and you guys better pick it up, because General Electric is willing to give it to you." So we took it. The guy made a huge error, because Newberry Street is over the subway. So he had